The basic idea for this class is basically, what?
And John.
Yes. Ah! I see you. Okay. I guess, who are we missing then? John, okay. Yes, and John.
Yeah, John,
right.
John and Dana.
And,
Tammy,
and
when you
Lorraine?
do John's ass, I want you to CC me.
And Lorraine? Is Lorraine in the class too?
Oh, right, Lorraine.
I don't
Yep, we're
think
missing
Lorraine
Lorraine.
is here
Oh my
tonight.
gosh, how quickly you forget, Jeremy.
I feel terrible.
All
I'm
right.
a big fan of Lorraine's.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of all of you guys. I'm so proud of you getting to this point, really. And those of you that don't have your dissertation proposal in yet, you will in the next 2 months. And I will be your personal butt kicker if you would like that. Any of you that need a little extra motivation, I finished my dissertation because a friend of mine very graciously offered to write me a nasty text message every single day until I actually finished. So it wasn't, you know, gee, I hope you're having a great day. How much did you get written today? It was, did you, you know, hey, basically, hey, butthead, did you make your 500 words today? That kind of thing. But it was very motivational because I knew somebody was there pushing, and I would like to be able to help the rest of you get through your proposals this semester so that you can register for credits in the spring. Because if you don't, you can't register for credits. And that would be a bad thing. All right, so this class, I am feeling a little out of my element because I do not have a huge history of grants and grant writing, but I have some, and I've gone to workshops, and I'm taking my own kind of classes, and I'm working through it too. So we are going to work through this together because honestly, we have no other choice. I am excited to get to see you guys again and get to work with you again. And this is a nice skill-based class for the most part that I am hoping will allow you lots of creative time in your mind to work through problems on your dissertation and push forward on those kind of things as you're working through pieces on the grant. Now, originally I intended this to be a group collaborative community where 2 or 3 of you would get together and write a grant. And I can see from reading through the discussion forums that some of you have very similar ideas that I think could partner very well. The other thought process that I'm having, though, after going to a grant workshop and seeing how that kind of worked with an individual person, like how it pushed me to really conceptualize exactly what I wanted to do with this grant that I'm working on and how we wanted it to work and how we wanted it structured, my suggestion would be, which none of you took, whenever I said you can make it about your dissertation, none of you did, I don't think, unless I'm not sure what your dissertation is on. But if you want to rework your thoughts on where you want to go with this grant that you're going to be writing, theoretically, this semester, and center it on your dissertation and your dissertation work, I am totally okay with doing that. If you want to take something theoretical that's a potential opportunity that maybe you would have and run with it, I'm fine with that too. But if we want to try and work this so that it works for your dissertation and the pieces that you're working on for that as well as for this class, I am willing to work with you to make that happen, even if we have to kind of stretch parameters of some of the calls for proposals and things like that. So that's going to be something you're going to have to decide this week, what you want to do. Because I'm fine with you working in small groups. I am fine with you working by yourself on your dissertation materials, and I'm fine with you working by yourself as an individual on a theoretical proposal that you maybe would want to put in there later. Okay? I want to make this class work for you as best as we can. So, with that being said, do I have any comments from you guys on where you think it might be best for you to kind of center the class, or you want to? No?
And I guess I just have a question. So if I don't change mine was working on something with the American Red Cross, which I'm not actively involved in anymore. It's just an idea.
Right.
Are you suggesting that I change that to something else or stick with it? Because I'm not going to have access to their data, which I'm totally fine to make it up since it's a hypothetical grant. And I can come up with some type of, health service HSA grant, but not actually submit it? Or do you want me to switch to something else?
We are not going to actually submit our grants. okay?
Right.
We do not fit into a grant cycle at the moment for anything that I can find that would fit any of the parameters for this class. I've been searching and scouring them to try and find like a real grant to write for, and there's not really one out there that's due about the time this class ends that we could put it in. So yeah, you can do a theoretical grant about the Red Cross if you think it's a great project and you'd like to work with that. But if you want to figure out a way to work your dissertation pieces of it into the research piece of this grant that you're going to write, and you can think up some good kind of like actionable objectives and questions that you'd want to answer that surround that, we can make that work.
I don't. I'm fine to. I'm fine to. With
The reason I'm
the
saying
Red
is-
Cross one. I'm just saying it'll be fictitious data as opposed to anything that I pulled out of some data bank from the ERC.
It'll actually be real data because you'll be able to go on. The Red Cross is a not-for-profit organization, and a lot of the records have to be available online.
Right.
You will be able to figure some of these pieces out. Hi, John. You will be able to pull some of the data from there. It's just whether it's, let's put it this way. You can write a grant for anything you want. I am fully behind you doing that. But if it would be easier for you to have your literature review piece of it pulled from your dissertation, have your design and your theory pieces and your analysis pieces pulled from your dissertation and really fine tune those as we're working through this, I think that will be more beneficial for you in the long run. But if you have something that you think would be fun or you're passionate about, then I am fine with you taking that and running with it. Does that answer your question?
It does. I mean, and I'll certainly search for the data. I'm just saying it doesn't at all necessarily fit with anybody else's, and I'm fine to do it alone. But I just thought it was too far out for everybody else's. But if it's about the experience, I'm good with that. I'll take that experience and go with it.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to make it practical so that it was something that you guys could work like that, but you know, I'm okay if I'm okay if you're just doing it for the experience too. But I know whenever I was doing my dissertation writing, anything that I could double dip on, that I could utilize a piece of something that I'd already written, that I could utilize a way to analyze things, that made my life easier. So, yeah. So what about the rest of you? Does anybody else have anything you want to?
Oh, yeah, I do. I'm going to interject here for a second, if I may. I'm a little bit confused now based on your statement, simply because I'm probably very narrow in my understanding of grant writing. I do have experience, both competitive and flow-through grant writing experience, but it's very narrow in that it's always education focused and you know, following Edgar and federal guidelines and state guidelines and all that good stuff. So it may be different than the grant proposal that you're asking us to write. So I'm prefacing my question with that understanding, but I'm struggling to understand how anything that any of us are doing with our dissertation is going to dovetail into a grant writing process. Can you speak a little bit to that so I can kind of put what you said together in my own mind based on my experiences?
Okay, so what are you studying specifically for your dissertation in 2 sentences? And not
Impact, academic achievement and impact based on teacher perception of engagement, of student engagement.
okay. So let's say that was good. You guys all need to make your 30-second elevator pitch, by the way. You need to have that in your pocket, what you're doing and how you're talking about it, 30 seconds. So if we wanted to look at that, that's what you want to study. What's this going to do, though? This is going to raise your students' scores in what? Math?
Academic area, any academic area.
It's going to raise them in math. Okay, so math is a STEM subject. So right there, we probably have some kind of NSF grant that we could use these methods of using technology to increase student achievement results in math. So we are going to write we are going to write a grant that is going to look at increasing student achievement in math. And how we think that that's happening is because of the teacher's perceptions of student engagement. So it's going to focus on student engagement. So what we're going to write about with our grant is not what we want to study necessarily. It's going to be what we want to actually have happen, the student achievement. So if you think of ways that you could impact student achievement in your classroom, in your online classroom, or measure student achievement in your classroom, or anything like that, I think we could spin it then to be, I don't know.
Okay, that makes more sense. And if I can tie it to a real grant, unfortunately, the real grants I have access to right now and/or can and/or have to write are due before the end of this class. I should probably think of something or find something that might be future. And I'm putting together a proposal that would be that I would like to submit for the future.
When are they due?
Well, the first one's due November 6th.
Okay, so that's probably not going to work. If it was the one where there's one that's due, I think it's on undergraduate STEM education or something like that. That one is due December 8th. If you had one due December 8th, then I would say, yeah, let's do it. You could probably get it done in that and actually do it like for a real grant. If you have a funding opportunity that's in the spring and you want to tweak it towards that, I'm fine with that. Okay. I just know that most people where they're at and what they're doing are probably not going to necessarily be writing a grant for a larger proposal. Although smaller ones we could maybe find, but then I wanted to have something that was across the board kind of even for everyone to have to fill in and, you know, have the structure of it. Because most grants will have a very similar structure. NSF, Department of Ed, in National Institute of Health, most of them have a very similar structure to them. They're about 15 pages, give or take 2 or 3, with appendices, and they have a similar format. So that was kind of where I was aiming with this. But yeah, everybody has really broad interests, and my thought was to make it work for your dissertation work so that it was helpful, beneficial, centered on what you were interested in. But we can take a vote. I'm fine with taking a vote, and I'm fine with this being a working syllabus. Like this week, I took off the 5 to 6 page paper, and I'm like, no, you're not doing a 5 to 6 page paper this week. You're doing a 1-page need statement. That's more important. So I'm going to try and make this based on the stuff that I learned at that grant workshop. The way the lady presented it there was very good in comparison with the other training I've had on grants. And so that's why your syllabus is a working syllabus, and I may have a few changes, but I'm going to try not to. But it will be to make your life easier and better, and not to dump more work on you. But
so if I could, sorry, I'm going to interject, guys. I'm going to be Tammy tonight. So if I could interject. Sorry, Tam, love ya. So if I could interject, essentially the purpose of the rest of this class, the next 7 weeks, is to go through step by step. What are the components in writing a grant proposal? So by the end, we have a complete grant proposal.
Yes.
Is that too simplistic? But it sounds like that's what you guys
exactly
do.
it. That's exactly it.
Okay. I just understood this class in 30 seconds.
That's awesome, because you did a really great job of explaining that. I'm going to transcribe that out of the video, and I'll put that in the heading of the class from now on. In 7 short weeks, you will write a grant. All right. So
all I know is who wants to be my editor, because if you're writing a competitive grant, you got to have an editor.
Yeah, well, we're going to contract that out. That'll be $500 of your budget.
Well, since I'm your bestie, Heather, I for sure will be your editor. Can't wait to see where that grant goes.
Yeah, I just turned in a grant that instead of publicly said public alley, but when they told me that I had a mistake on publicly, I thought I misspelled it another way that was much more embarrassing. So I'm glad it was just that. So yes, an editor is very important, because Microsoft Word spell check does not catch everything, especially if it's spelled semi-right. All right, so to get this moving and not waste your time, since I was 4 minutes late for class anyway, this week you all kind of gave an overview of the organization you're working for. or one that you think is aligned with some of the things that you think. You gave an idea, which you guys had really, I thought, good ideas about where you thought your grant might fit, what type of grant you were looking at, and the type of needs that you thought you were going to be meeting. Most of you have a CV and a small biography turned in, and or a small biography. I'll be looking at those. I didn't look at those yet. Those have to be attached as a piece of the grant, and so that way you already have that chunk of it done. This week we're looking at need statements. We're reading about need statements and how they fit into it, and trying to craft a good one. There is a packet that's in the class folder for this week that has an example of 4 different need statements, and it also has an evaluation sheet for it, and then a worksheet for you to fill in the blank and kind of craft a need statement. So like I was telling Heather earlier, what I think would be beneficial for you would be to, for most of you, to look at your dissertation and see how you think you could craft a grant project to meet the needs of your population that embeds your dissertation work within it. So for example, the grant that I'm working on, and I'll keep you guys involved as I go through in case you're interested. And so you can see an example of something at work. The grant that I'm working on is on curiosity and making, and it's focused on STEM making in an after-school club. So what do I really want to do? I want to look at kids' behaviors and see what a curious, see what a curious behavior looks like, and see how these, I want to see what a curious behavior looks like, and I want to see what the kids do whenever they're making, how they question, how they investigate materials, how they put things together. That's what I really want to look at. Nobody's going to give me money to look at curiosity. They're going to give me money to look at curiosity in the framework of, this is giving these students STEM experiences in an after-school environment to extend and enrich their school learning, and how that ties back. So the whole grant focus really is on, first of all, giving these students what they need. And in the context of that, we're going to be looking at curiosity and how that plays out, because then that ties into their school learning. We can develop modules and things like that that can tie back into the school day and go across. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. So if you can find a way to make your dissertation work for that, I'm fine with you changing your focus from week 1 to something that meets the needs of your work environment, potential work environment, and the dissertation that you'd want to do. If it doesn't, I am fine with you taking your idea that you already had and running with it. For example, Matt and Katie, both of you, I think, had ideas about STEM makerspaces, correct? Am I right with that, or was that?
Robotics, something.
Yeah.
Lego. Yeah.
Lego robotics and after school clubs with that, and STEM makerspaces a lot of times go hand in hand, because a lot of the making kind of can happen in that environment. So those are 2 places where I see a lot of overlap within the classroom. There's a couple of you looking at video in different ways and its uses in different ways. You could actually kind of come together as well if you wanted to make a group and do this. By now, you know yourself and you know each other and how you like to work. And so, if your work style doesn't match up with a person that has a similar interest, then do it yourself. There's no use giving the other person headaches because you can't make deadlines, and yourself headaches because your deadline's going to be different than their deadline or whatever. So what I'm saying is I'm really flexible to the product that you're going to actually come up with, whether it's theoretical or whether it's your dissertation. And I'm really flexible about whether you work together or by yourself. Okay? All right. So with that, the big thing that the lady that did our grant workshop actually pounded into our heads is the fact that nobody really gets free money unless you're really, really good. So there has to be a really tight mapping between your research questions that you're asking and the activities that are happening and the theoretical background and the measures you're using for evaluation. Okay? So the biggest important thing, though, especially if you're going with a foundation grant, is that you are meeting the needs of your population and matching them very carefully to the foundation that we're working with or trying to get a grant from. So that's why this week we are going to be crafting needs statements. So you're going to have to pick your area or repick it, if the case may be, and you're going to have to look very closely at the population that you're working with and create a convincing narrative why someone would want to give you money. Okay? So in order to do that, you have 3 chapters to read out of the textbook. You know, the one that's the only one you'll ever need. The other ones are from resources that I had. And then the other book that you really didn't have to have, but if you bought it, that's cool, we'll be using in a couple different places. But I will copy those chapters out and post them for those of you that did not buy it. If you did buy it, then you'll have your own copy to work from, or you can return it. But I'll do it that way for you. All right, so. Yes, Tammy.
So are we to be finding the either foundation or the NSF grant that we're going to be working towards and write the needs statement according to those criteria, or are we just writing a very generalized one, not looking at the potential funder at this point?
You are writing a general one, not looking at the funder at this point.
When will that shift?
You will never have to rewrite your needs statement.
Okay.
Pieces of your needs statement can be incorporated into other pieces of your document, but you will never have to rewrite your needs statement for me whenever we figure out what we're going to do. I had ideas in my head of what we were going to do. I gave you a list of grants to look for, and I don't know that any of you really fit comfortably into a lot of those. So I might write up a generic call for proposals that I think kind of can encompass all of you, and we'll follow an NSF format unless you have one that you want to go for sure that you know of. And I think Heather's the only one really that had a really specific one that she was looking at, correct?
Yes, what can I say? Welcome to my world. Live and die by the grant.
Yes. So yours probably will not work in your time frame, but is it one that opens up again in the spring?
Yes, but there are others I can go find, but that's not going to change what my idea in my mind is right now. It might tweak what I said last week, but it isn't going to significantly change it. But
Okay.
there are all kinds of grants in the, as you well know, in the technology,
Yes.
robotic, et cetera, STEM type area.
Yeah.
Can you say hot topic at the moment?
Yes. Yes. Although they did cancel the STEM plus C grant, so it's now in with the DRK-12. So that's a big change. So some of the grant agencies are starting to consolidate their grant platforms and reduce the amount of money available. So that's not good for everybody, but it happens. All right. Does it do any?
So if I switch and work with Julie or Melissa or anybody else who might want to take me on, do we only need one needs statement or do we need 2 needs statements?
If you are going to work as a group, you will need one needs statement. You'll need one set of every document.
I'm just going to put it in the chat. Does anybody want me to join you so that I can assist you? I'm very glad to help in whatever way and learn about whatever it is you're wanting to write.
See, and I wasn't very specific at all when I put stuff out there. I just was really generic in general. So if we want to make something up, Tammy, I'm with you.
Hey, now this is kind of what I envisioned for tonight, was that you guys would kind of all find partners to work with for this, but I didn't know how. I did not want to assign partners. I did not want to force somebody that wants to work on their own at their own pace to work with someone, even if they're good friends with everybody and they have great work ethic and everything else. I didn't want to push you into a place you didn't want to be. So if you guys want to figure out if you want to work with someone or not, what topic you want to go on, and then, do that on your own. I am fine with that as long as I find out eventually who's working with who and what you're doing.
We're talking.
Yeah, I think the work needs to be split 50-50. I was sending out a partner survey, or 33-33-33. If it's... All right. You guys are fun. All right. So I will leave that up to you. What I'm going to need from you this week is an email that says, this is who we're going to be working with, and basically your topic. And I need a needs statement from the group. You can be turned in with both your names on it. All right. And I'm trying to remember if there's anything else that I need. Oh, I hear it, baby. I did my entire stats lessons with one of my kids on my lap, I swear to God. All right. So what kind of questions do you guys have? Do you have a question about the class, question about anything you're working on, question about anything else in the entire world?
Do you have a sense of what else you might change, Jen? I mean, I'm great, and I'm not trying to be confrontational. I haven't looked at week 8 yet, but there was some discussion before we got going this evening that maybe you'd made a couple of tweaks, and
I did make a couple
I'm curious
tweaks.
about the
I took
next week and what your vision is.
Well, I thought I would have it all done, but then I ended up having, more issues and complications and hours in the doctor's office. I've been having some health issues this summer and up till now, so I have not gotten everything fixed with the class that I meant to. So, but I'm planning on having that done. I'm home all week this week without driving, so I'm planning on having everything stable by the end of this week. Okay? So by like Sunday next week, there shouldn't be any changes the rest of the way throughout unless you guys revolt and tell me that you're not doing something and I'll have to tweak it. I am up for slight mutiny, not full.
Thank you. No, I don't really work ahead anyway, but I just thought I would ask.
Well, no, I know some people do like to work ahead.
Yep.
But next week, this coming week that you're in right now, I had you writing a 5 to 6 page paper of a project overview, because in my head you would be at that point whenever I wrote the class. And right now, then, looking at everybody's discussion posts and thinking about really where you're at with it, you're not there. You're not using your dissertations, which is why I thought you'd be able to do that. So it's now a 1 to 2 page need statement instead of a 5 to 6 page paper overview. So, like I said, I'm going to go back through and reframe it with the thought that you're not using your dissertations for the most part, and that way I'll just reformat it with that kind of thinking in place. I will try to keep the assignments that are on the paper as a legit assignments that are there. Anything that will happen within the class would be refining what you would be doing for your assignment. And I will, like I said, I will get it caught up this week and you guys will be good to go. If that's all right. I mean, the class is built. We can run it as it's built. It's just, I think it'll work better if I make some changes. So.
Personally, that works fine for me.
Yeah. And with your comps exams, I am blinding them and sending them out to anonymous reviewers within the department, within our set of faculty. Your advisor will get your third paper. You will get 2 other readers on your other ones that is not your advisor. It's the way it's supposed to be, unless it doesn't work out very fairly. And we will be meeting not this week, but next week. And hopefully we'll be able to go over them by then. But I can't promise because I don't know anybody else's health or work schedule. But that was the intention of when we would have them finished originally. So you'll find out about this soon enough. And I did not even look at them yet because I need to be able to blind them and distribute them and not pick the ones I want to read. So, yeah. That's the other piece of news I had for you. All right.
Jen, what's the expected turnaround then if you're passing those out this week? Are we looking to maybe know by Thanksgiving or?
Yes.
Like I know there was some, okay.
Yeah. when Mike and I had talked about it, we had talked about me passing them out this week, and then the next meeting that we have, which is not this week Wednesday, but the next Wednesday, being able to discuss them. I am not sure if that's still on the table, or if it's going to be the week after. You will know by Thanksgiving for sure. I'm thinking that it would be sooner than that. My estimation would be like November 1st-ish is what I would think.
That sounds, I hear Tammy chuckling. That sounds ambitious to me. I'm going to mentally file away by my birthday, which is December 1st. So
Okay.
I will do no hassling until then.
Well, Tammy's
It's just a lot to read, and you all have a lot to do. I appreciate the optimism, but I'm comfortable with a very realistic timeline. And while I think you might finish by then, there are others involved who don't
the worst one.
do some things all that quickly.
Yeah. I'm not sure. I know other people have had other things going on that have made them really behind on other issues and other things, so I'm not sure. But that was our intention originally, was November 1st, if I'm counting right. But yeah, hopefully the week after, if not then. I would like to say by I will say by Thanksgiving for sure. So, all right. So, out of all of you guys, how many of you have actually written grants? Several of you have. That's awesome. You probably have more experience than I do. So you have to tell me what your experiences were with it and anything that you want to bring to the table with it. Feel free to chime in and give your experience, because I've been told that every grant that you write is as different as, your children. They all may have a similar genetic background, but they're all completely different. So, all right. I'm sorry, I'm hotspotting on my phone, so I'm trying to pull. I gave you guys a folder to download. The folder to download is all the grant materials that they gave me at the workshop that they said we are allowed to use for trainings. So I gave you that whole file that's available. You cannot run it from Google Drive, though. If you download it onto your computer, if you have a small memory on your computer, you can put it onto a thumb drive and it will work from there. So I did want to let you know that we'll be using some of the resources out of it, and we're also going to be using the databases for the grants and things like that when we start looking through them. So last week you were supposed to kind of just get a gist of what was going on, and this week you're supposed to think about what your project overarching goal would be and write several objectives and then a needs statement. The objectives and the goal will go into your discussion board where you guys will comment on them for each other, and I'm going to kind of pop in and out and look through them and ask you some questions about it. Keep in mind that your goals should be SMART. Everybody knows what your objectives should be SMART. They should be measurable. They should, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Specific, measurable, yes, thank you, Jeremy. Those kind of things. The measurable is
attainable, realistic, time-bound.
Thank you. Michigan uses SMART goals, and I never did before, or SMART objectives. So the first time I heard that was actually in conjunction with a workshop that I was in about a year ago. I'd not heard that before. Thank you. Attainable. What's the R?
Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound.
Yes, thank you. So those are the objectives that you're going to be looking for with this. You're going to be looking for things that can be met within the realm of your grant proposal, 2 or 3 years. You're going to be looking for measures eventually that can be used that are either already constructed or that you can validate, which I would suggest already constructed, because if somebody else has validated them, you can cite them. And even if there's problems with them, you can, yes. I agree to all of you, yes. Education loves SMART goals. So those are things you're going to be looking at too. There's an example in one of the readings that talks about somebody wanting to have a delightful reading experience. You can't really measure delightful. You can measure reading level change. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're starting to craft this. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to offer up a group or a group name, or, you know, what?
That was my question. That was my question. For working in a group, how do you want us to post to the discussion board?
If you're working in a group and you want to post to the discussion board, one of you can post and put all of your names on it. And then you can each comment on other people's stuff still. Okay? Because it would be silly to make you post the same thing twice. Yeah. Melissa says this. Tammy says this. Gee, they look a little similar.
Well, and the next question is it, we have 4 in our group. Is that acceptable?
4 in your group will be acceptable. I will expect you to be on the high range of page numbers, whereas somebody working by themselves would be on the low end. So if the 4 of you are going to group up and do something, then I would expect if it's going to be an 8 to 10 page thing, you're going to be hitting the 10, maybe stretching it even a little bit. And, you know, if I'm doing it by myself, I'm going to be down at the 6, 7, 8 level. I will specify whenever I write the assignments out now, since we'll have a range of things. How's that sound? Jeremy, I don't think you know how to underachieve. $1,000,000 man lifting.
It's important to have goals. I'd like to try sometime.
I think all of you need a lesson on what it's like to be a slacker once. Not in this class. Maybe, at home, don't do the dishes for a night or 2 or something. All right. So I think some of you are already forming your group. Like I said, I'm fine with any of your configurations that you want to concoct. And other than that, I don't have anything else we need to discuss tonight. I will try to keep these to a minimum. You don't have a Christmas tree up. You have a Christmas in July tree up. And now you're pre-planning for the season. My brother-in-law has 3 trees in his house year-round for the last 20 years. So, as of now, I would like to be able to meet with you every week. But if I feel like it's just going to be me telling you stuff like kind of this one was, then I will just tell you stuff in a video and I will send it to you and you can get a hold of me individually if we need to. Okay? I was hoping that we would be able to kind of discuss next week need statements and pick them apart with each other a little bit using the evaluation rubric. So I'll see when those come in on Sunday. I will send them out so you guys can each look at somebody else's rubric, depending on how many groups we happen to have. And then we'll talk about them Tuesday night. That's my plan for it anyway. So it's not just me talking, because really I like to talk, but I shouldn't be. So anyway, any more questions for the group? All right, then you guys have a really great night. It's good to see you all.
Thank you, Jen. Good to see you too.
Everybody.
Yeah. Next time I'll be
Jen.
in a better place. And
Have a good night, everyone.
email me if you
Good night,
want.
Jen. Take care.
Thank you.
Tammy, am I staying a minute? Is that the
Yep, that's the plan.
okay?
Last
Have a
thing,
good one, folks.
any of you need me to
Bye, Preston.
any of you need me to email you and
Bye,
text you,
Katie.
then I will.